Hi guys, welcome, thank you for tuning in. I'm Jose, I'm going to be your host today, and I'm really pleased to be here live with you guys to introduce our brand new series that we've been working on with Phil. Phil Best, who is in the chat as well, helping out. He's been writing this series of 30 days of Python that we're introducing today. So I'm really happy to be able to show that to you guys today, or at least introduce it and give you a little bit of a teaser about it, as we're going to start posting it from the 1st of April. So this series here, this live session is... Are you guys not getting sound? You're trolling me. There is sound. I fell to the YouTube trolls. Yes, so there is sound. So yeah, this session is to get you set up, get you started working with Python, and hopefully get you motivated to join us for the 30 Days of Python series. I know that 30 days doesn't seem like a long time for some. For other people, it seems like ages. 30 days may not seem like a long time, and we're not going to be able to teach you everything there is to know and do with Python in 30 days. But we can give you very strong foundations in 30 days. So the 30 Days of Python series has that aim. The aim is to help you build a strong Python foundation so that you can then go and tackle any Python project or topic on your own. We're going to help you connect the dots with Python in those critical initial stages of learning to code. And once you truly understand the fundamentals, then you can go and achieve anything with Python. So today we're going to help you get set up so you can actually write some code. We're going to talk about some of the most important things, some of the most important concepts in programming and in Python, and we're also going to build a quick project to help you cement these newfound skills. If you are not a complete beginner to Python, then this live session might not be the most useful to you, but the 30 Days of Python series might still be really good, because the 30 Days of Python series, as well as the Python content that you might already know, also comes with a lot of exercises and projects. We've got a project every 3 days and a project every 7 days. And so we've got a lot of projects in the series that may be helpful if you already know some Python. That's what we're talking about today. If you have any questions at any time during this session, you can ask in the live chat here on YouTube, or you can join our Discord server and chat in the live chat there. Phil, like I mentioned, is going to be around answering questions if I can't do it because I'm presenting. But if you join the Discord server and you want to chat about the live session later on, then you can do that. Also, in this session, we've got some quizzes for you, Python quizzes, as we go along, so keep your eyes peeled for those, see if you can get the right answers. All right, so let's get started. The first and most important thing, a question that's very often left unanswered when you're starting to learn to code, is, what is programming about? What's it for? How does it work? And, what are programs for? And I actually only really found the answer to this and really grokked it, or internally understood what programming was for after completing my degree, probably a couple of years after completing my degree. So that's not great, but it takes a while to really understand that. And it's something that we're going to try to help you understand much earlier in the 30 Days of Python series. And the answer is that programming is about data. Programs receive data, programs manipulate data in some way, and then they display some data. That's what programs do. Many programs receive data from users and then display data to users, but a lot of programs, many more programs, only receive data from other programs, process it, and then send it to other programs. So there's a lot of this hidden communication going around in programming, because that's really what programs are for. So let's take a look at a couple examples of some programs that behave in this way. Well, all programs behave in this way, but let's look at a couple examples. So the first example is, I'll show you here on camera. the first example that we've got is, hey, I'm here as well. The first example that we've got is this web browser here. Look at it. So a web browser is an example of a program that accepts data from users. For example, you can see my mouse here. Actually, no, you can't see my mouse, but my mouse is now on these buttons up here. And I know you can't see it, so I apologize about that. But this browser is accepting data from the user, which in this case is me. I'm hovering over these buttons, and the browser is then sort of receiving that data. It's processing it, it's communicating with the website code, and it's deciding that it has to update and show some new data, which is this updated button that you're seeing here at the top, when it decides that the data it received from me matches some action that has to happen. So again, data in, then it processes it, and then it shows some data out. And a web browser is an extremely complicated program, but nonetheless, it also behaves in this way. Another example might be an app like WhatsApp, or Facebook Messenger. These apps are just classic examples of really simple apps when you deconstruct them in the way they work. WhatsApp, for example, receives data, message data from users, as well as the intended recipients, and then it stores them in a central database. And finally, the intended recipients, or the users that were meant to receive those messages, then can download them from the servers and load them up in their apps. That's a classic example, a very simple app, but nonetheless a very useful one, that just receives data, processes it, and then displays it. And all programs are like that. So when you're coding, when you're writing code in your programs, no matter how simple they are or no matter how complex they are, what's really important is to keep thinking about this data pipeline or this data process that's going through your programs. What data do your programs get? How do they process it or manipulate it? And finally, how do users interact with the programs and see the output? So that's the most important thing about programming that is often skipped when you're learning about programming. So if you think about any other computer program, you'll see that that's how they work. That's the whole point. And after all, the very name computer comes from computation, which is similar to calculation. Computers are made to calculate stuff, process data. So keep that in mind while coding and never forget it, because your programs will be receiving, manipulating, and displaying data. So yeah, it took me 2 years to really understand that, and it happened when one of my colleagues back at work said, programming is all about passing messages, and I was thinking, passing messages? What does that mean? And then I realized that he meant communication between different agents, user and program, or even different parts of one program can communicate with one another in our code. All right, so in order to write any code, we need a place to write it and run it. And that's why I recommend you use a website called REPL.it, which is the one that you're seeing right now. REPL.it is going to allow us to write and run the code in our browser. It's really flexible, it's really powerful, and it's very easy to get started with. However, if you have Python installed already, you've got your development environment like PyCharm or VS Code, and you want to use that, feel free to use that. But if you don't, or if you want to follow along with the series to the letter, then let's take a look at REPL.it. So, what we've got here in REPL.it is a REPL. The first time that you go into REPL.it, you're going to see the REPL.it homepage, but I recommend you create an account in REPL.it. And when you create an account and you log in, you're going to see something like this. I've got maybe a bit more stuff here than you'll see in your dashboard when you first sign up. But you're going to have access when you sign up to your REPLs. So whenever you create a new REPL with this button at the top right, that new REPL is going to get stored in your account so that then you can very easily go back to it and access it. Especially during the 30 days of Python, it's going to come in really handy because every day you're going to create a new REPL and you're going to keep the code for that day in that REPL and you're going to be able to go back to it very easily. So go to REPL.it, sign up, and then create a new REPL. When you sign up and create a new REPL, you can find here Python. You can just type Python to search, or maybe it'll be at the top like it is for me. I don't think it will be. So you can just type Python, and you'll see that you've got a bunch of different options: Python, Python 2.7, Python with Turtle, Pygame, and tkinter. We're going to pick Python on its own, because that is going to create a Python 3.8 REPL. Python 3.8 is the latest version, as we're going to learn in just a moment, so do select that. And then if you are logged in, you can name your REPL. So here I'm going to call it the 30 Days of Python Introduction. This REPL can be public so that other people can then go and look at it. So I will share this link with you guys later on Twitter, in case you want to see the code that we've written here. You can click on create and you end up in this REPL here. That is pretty much what I've already created before for you guys, but anyway, we'll use this new one. And what we've got here is the development environment. So we've got a place to run our code. That's in here in the middle, which says main.py. You can see that I'm hovering over it. It's a bit annoying, you can't see my mouse. But nonetheless, here is where we write the code. On the right, this black area is the console area, and that's where any output of our code is going to go. And on the left, we've got the files area, which has main.py at the moment. On the left here as well, you've got a little cog at the bottom left, which is the settings. You can click on that, and then you've got a bunch of settings for REPL8 that you can sort of change. Like the layout, you can make these things stacked instead of side by side. You can change the theme to dark if you prefer a dark theme over a light theme. I'm going to leave it as dark because I prefer a dark theme. And then you've got the indent size. In my case, it's already 4, but in your case, if you're new to REPL8, you're going to see 2 here, and it's important that you change it to 4 because Python uses an indent size of 4 by default, so it's good to sort of change it to that and use that. The indent size is just something that Python uses to detect when certain pieces of code are related to other pieces of code. We're going to learn more about that throughout the 30 Days of Python series, but it's important, so let's change it to 4. You can also change the font size if that's helpful. All right, other than that, I'm going to close the settings tab and we can start writing Python code. So the first version of Python was released 30 years ago in 1990. And since then, the language has sort of undergone a lot of change, and it has grown into one of the most popular, if not the most popular, programming languages in the world. And one of the main strengths is the readability. So when you're writing Python code, it's very accessible, it's very easy to read, and often it reads just like English. But Python is also extremely flexible and can be found in a wide range of industries, from machine learning to web development, data analysis, all sorts of stuff. And at this time, there are 2 major Python standards that are currently active. Python 2.7, like we saw a moment ago in REPL8, and we've got Python 3. So Python 2, 2.7, is it has reached end of life. So it's not going to get any additional updates, but there's still a lot of content that uses Python 2 out there, and that's not going to change anytime soon. So knowing about Python 2.7, sort of what it can do and how it differs from Python 3 can be still really useful if your job is using Python 2. And the second branch of Python is Python 3, with the most current version being Python 3.8. Python 3 was intended to be a replacement for Python 2 and has a number of improvements and some significant syntax changes, or how the code is written. So it's important to know that code written in Python 2 does not necessarily work in Python 3, although often it does. So even if the code runs, though, sometimes the output that you'll get from running the code is not going to be the same because they behave slightly differently. So we're always going to be working with Python 3, Python 3.8 specifically, in the 30 Days of Python series, and today as well. So just looking at the chat now, sorry guys, this was a lot of talking in my part, but yeah, Phil has been helping out in the chat, so if you guys have any questions, do tag him. I'm from Spain, currently living in Scotland, though. Dark mode is the best mode, I agree. All right, so now that we are all set up, we know a little bit about Python and sort of programming and how it works, let's start learning some Python. So, we're going to start with the foundations of Python, or the most basic elements. And in Python, the most basic elements are numbers. So we've got, for example, the number 4 that I have just written here. The number 4 is an integer, a whole number, and we can use it in Python as the value of the number. We can also use floating point values like 4.8 or 1500.67. All of these are floating point values, or also called floats. So we've got integers, or ints, and floating point numbers, or floats. Okay, so we can work with these, and we can do things like adding them and all that. We're going to learn about that in just a moment. All right, thanks Everton for joining the series. All right, so as well as these positive numbers here, like 4 and 1500, you can put a negative sign in front of them, and that makes it -4 or -1500.67. So this all works more or less in the way you'd expect. But if we run this program, just 4, and I press run here, then Python is going to start running the program from line 1 onwards. It's only one line at the moment, so that's the only line it's going to run. And you'll see here in the output, when it actually completes running, that nothing gets printed out. So there's no output. And that's because when Python sees the value 4, it sort of evaluates it. It sees that you're wanting to talk about the value 4, and it goes and stores it somewhere in its memory, and it keeps it there for you to use. But we've not told Python that we want to display data. So up till now, we've been in this data manipulation side of programming. If we want to display data and actually show it to users, we have to be explicit about that. So that's where the print function comes into play. Print is a function that will allow us to display some text data in the console. Most Python applications have a console attached to them, so print will automatically know that you want to display data here in this text console, as opposed to, creating a window or something like that. So if we call print, then we use the function name, which in this case is print, and then we put 2 brackets, an opening bracket or round bracket or parentheses, and a closing bracket. And inside of those 2 brackets, we're going to put whatever it is that we want to print. So in this case, it's the value 4, and we no longer need the value 4 up there. And now if we run this, we're going to see 4 gets printed out. So if you're not fully new to Python, then this will be no news to you. We've got the print function that we can use to display some data. The process of running a function or executing it is sometimes called calling the function, executing the function, running the function. All of those mean the same thing. Often we say calling the function. So here what we're doing is we're calling the print function. Notice that we can call the print function many times if we want. We can call the print function with floating point numbers. We can call the print function with negative numbers. That's all totally fine. Something important to note is that we don't usually put spaces between print and the brackets. So if we do something like this, that's going to look a bit weird to most Python developers. So we do usually skip the space in between there. That's something that I've noticed a lot of new students are doing. They're putting spaces after print because we usually put spaces after words in written English, but in Python we don't normally do that. All right, and so now we're going to learn about a very important part, a very important term in programming and in Python, which is the word expression. This is not a term that most new courses really teach, but once you know about this term, it really helps you sort of talk about and think about how Python is working internally. So the term is expression. So what exactly is an expression? Well, we don't need to get into too much detail about how Python calculates things and things like that. But you can think about it like this. If anything in our code evaluates to a value, if Python can look at something in this code and say, okay, that is a value that I can use, or I can calculate a value out of that, then that is an expression. So the number 4 is an expression because Python sees that number and it does some processing and it realizes that it has the number 4 to work with. 4.45 as well. And we're going to learn about this in just a moment, but if we do something like 4 plus 5, Python will look at 4 and it will start using the value. Python will look at 5 and we'll start using the value. And Python will also look at the expression 4 plus 5 that gives you 9. And that is an expression that Python evaluates, and then it uses the value 9. So the concept of expression is anything that evaluates to a value, anything that Python can look at and calculate. So everything we've written so far, all the integers we've written, this addition, and the print calls are all expressions. So that means that print also has a value. When you call the print function, there is a value associated with that. We're going to learn much more about that in this series. So if you're interested in sort of diving deeper into Python, do follow us on Twitter, and we'll be letting you know whenever we post new content for the 30 Days of Python series, which we're going to do every day starting April 1st. All right, so let's look at arithmetic operators, or how we do maths in Python. And that's one of the things that we do basically all the time. So we accomplish mathematics through operators like 4 plus 5. This is the plus operator. We can do something like 4 minus 2. This is the subtraction operator. We can multiply and we can divide. So here we've got these operators, and they are all, or rather these numbers are all expressions, and the whole thing is also an expression on each line because Python is going to calculate it. So 4 plus 5 is going to give us 9, 2, 40, and 2. However, if we print out these things, and we're going to do that just now, you're going to see something interesting. So I'm going to run this code here, and you'll see that in the output we get 9, as expected, 2, 40, but then we get 2.0. And we get 2.0 here because whenever we perform a division, then we end up with a float instead of an integer. Python is smart enough to realize that, when you're dividing, you're much more likely to end up with fractions, so it gives us a float, even if the result is a 0.0. All right. So when we talk about this in the 30 Days of Python series, we're going to give you a lot more examples so that you can sort of look at them and refer back to them. So we'll leave it as that for now in terms of arithmetic operators. Now you can use multiple operators if you want, like like this, and that's totally fine. And if you use multiple operators but they are different, like here, then the result of these operators is going to be evaluated according to normal mathematical rules. So multiplication is going to go first, and then addition is going to go after. So the result here would be 45 as opposed to 60. Okay? So that's the 45 there. All right. You can also group operations with parentheses. So, for example, if you wanted 60, you can group this here with parentheses. I'm using the parentheses or round brackets around the 10 plus 5, and that evaluates as per normal maths to 15, and then the 4 gets multiplied after that. The normal rules of mathematics already tell us that the brackets evaluate first. So running that, you'll see that it gives you 60 when it does run. There you go. All right, so now that we have gone through this, we are going to learn about strings. So strings are the next sort of type of data. Numbers are useful for making calculations, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and so forth. And strings are used for storing arbitrary collections of symbols. So we can have a string defined inside quotation marks. So this is a string. Here we've got a string. The string contents are all the letters, spaces, and the exclamation mark that are inside the quotation marks. The string is defined in Python by using the quotation marks. You can use double quotation marks or you can use single quotation marks, but you can't use one of each. So they both have to match. And strings are sometimes called string literals because we are literally containing, or the string literally contains all of the symbols individually that are contained within the quotation marks. So Python does not care about the contents, it doesn't think about them, it doesn't process them. All it does is it sort of stores them and you can use them, use the contents afterwards, but it doesn't make any calculations or anything. So again, if we type 5 plus 5 in here, we're talking about the digit 5, the space, the plus sign, the space, and the digit 5. We're not asking Python to perform mathematics on it. That would require us to remove the quotation marks, and now we're performing mathematics. We're asking Python to evaluate this as an expression. All right, I'm getting some YouTube errors. Hopefully you guys are getting the video. But if you're not, do let me know in the chat, and we'll see what we can do. All right, so that's the basics of strings and numbers. Strings are used to store symbols, numbers are used to perform maths. But this is all hardly useful unless we have a way to refer to the values that we've already calculated. If we're doing some maths in our program, we probably want to be able to use the values that we're calculating in some way, be that printing them or reusing them in other calculations and so forth. So that's where the concept of variables comes into play. So variables are names that we can use to refer to a value that we've calculated previously. And as it happens, we can name values in Python using the assignment operation. So the syntax for that is quite simple. We can type name equal Jose, age equal 45. That may or may not be my real age. And here what we're doing is we are evaluating the right-hand side first. That's the string in this case. And then we're telling Python, okay, this value here, instead of just calculating it and then losing it, we want to give it a name, stick a post-it note on it, if you will. And from now onwards, from line 1 onwards, we can refer to this value using this name. So we could say something like print name. And since name is a value that we've defined previously, we can run this code, and that gives us the string Jose. Okay. So a couple of things about naming these variables. You can use letters, numbers, and underscores, but that's it. And the variable names cannot start with a number. Yeah, something like one name is not a valid variable name because it starts with a 1. If you put something like John's name, this is not valid variable because it has a space, which is not allowed, and it has a quotation mark, which is also not allowed. Instead, you could do John's underscore name, and this is a valid variable name because it uses the underscore, which is fine, and it doesn't use the quotation mark. So yeah, letters, numbers, and underscores, but it can't start with a number. That's basically the rules. We're going to have some more detail on these rules and sort of more examples in the blog post when we do post it later on in the series. Okay? So, this here, print name, is how we refer to an existing variable. The variable was defined up here, and then we simply use the name of the variable, and Python knows that this is something that we've defined before, and it, instead of, printing the word name literally out there, it's going to go and grab the value and print that. Note that something I see quite often is this. If you print name inside quotation marks, what you're doing is you're printing the string name. So running this is going to give us name printed out. Python is not smart enough to realize that you've got a variable inside this string unless you tell it. It just thinks we're referring to the individual symbols that are inside this string. That's just normal, is how Python works. All right. So let's have another example of, for example, the hourly wage of an employee is going to be $20, and the number of hours worked in a given week is going to be 40. So here we've defined two variables. The first one, hourly underscore wage, is equal to 20.0, and the second one, hours underscore worked, is equal to 40. If we wanted to calculate this person's wage, we can do that essentially in two ways, right? We can print out hourly wage multiplied by hours worked. And what Python is going to do is it's going to see that well, it's going to evaluate the expression inside the print function first. Because think about it. If we ask Python to print this, Python, we want it to print out the result of this multiplication. So Python is naturally going to first evaluate this expression, or calculate the result, and then it's going to print that out, as opposed to, printing out the words hourly wage and hours worked, or giving you an error or something like that. So here we're going to calculate the result of this expression, and we're going to print it out. So this is one way that we could solve this problem, and we get 800 back. The other way is we could define a variable wage, make it equal to hourly wage times hours worked, or this could be weekly income. Weekly income is equal to hourly wage times the hours worked, and we could print this out. So this is exactly the same, but now we've got an extra variable in there, and you have to make a decision as to whether you prefer your code being a bit shorter and putting the multiplication inside the print statement, or whether you want to create this new variable that has a name that when you read it, it tells you what the value is, or how it's important, or what it means. Both options are good. They are both equally fast, basically. So it's really up to you how you want to code. But these are the two options. I just wanted to show them both to you because they are essentially identical. But you can create variables to keep track of things if you want, or you can just print them out directly if they're simple enough. If they start getting very complicated, then you definitely want to be creating variables. All right. So yeah, that's how we work with variables, numbers. We perform mathematics. We use strings in Python. Something else that we should look at is how to get values from the user. So how to, get something and use it in our programs. So let's do this again. But instead of coding 20.0 and 40, we're going to ask the user to give us the value of their hourly wage and the hours worked. So how we're going to do that is we're going to start off by simply getting the hourly wage. How we do this is we use the input function. So like we used print, we can use the function input to get some data back. So print is for outputting data, input is for getting data. So we do input, open and close brackets, and that's it. Now, if I run this code, you'll see that my program doesn't stop. The stop button here has the stop text in it, which means I can still terminate my program, and that means my program is still running. So Python is actually waiting for me to type something. And what we're going to type, for example, is $20, right? Then I press enter. And when Replit decides to reload, let's see if we're back. Okay, we're back. Let me try that again. Replit decided to reload there for some reason. When we type enter, the program ends. So what has happened here in quick terms is that the input function has waited for the user to type something, and then whatever the user typed has been given to this hourly wage variable. So we can print hourly wage, and you'll see that if I type 20 in here and press enter, we're going to get 20 printed again, because that's the contents of hourly wage. All right. Now, what happens though if we multiply hourly wage by, let's say, 10? Because this is going to show an important part of the input function. So I'm going to run the code again, and now it's waiting for me to type something. Let's type 5, and you would reasonably expect the result to be 50. But you'll see that we get 55555555. The reason for that is the input function always produces a string. And when you multiply a number by a string, what Python does is it joins the string to itself 10 times. So it's akin to, doing 5 plus 5 plus 5 and so on. When you do this in Python, it's going to add the strings together. So by doing that, you end up with 555 many times. So instead, what we want to do is we want to convert this into either an integer, like that. So we'll do int, and inside the int function, we will put input. And what Python's going to do is it's going to evaluate from in to out. So it's going to evaluate outwards. The input function gets evaluated first. We get the value from the user, which is the string 5. And then that 5 goes in here, essentially, and we are turning 5 into an integer using this int function. Finally, hourly wage will have the value of 5, the number, and when we multiply that by 10, we will end up with 50. All right. So let's run that, and I'll show you that that is what happens. So I'll enter 5, press enter, and we get 50 back. All right. So I hope you guys are still with me, and this is not getting too complicated. Similarly, instead of int, we can use float. And what that does is it's going to convert the string into a floating point number, if that's what we want. So we can do 5.0 now, and that'll work. If you entered 5.0 earlier on when you were doing int, Python is going to do some magic with that. So yeah, if you want a floating point number, then use float. Okay. Now, the next thing is usually when we want to ask the user for some data, like we want to say, give me your hourly wage, we'll normally want to have something showing, saying, enter your hourly wage, as opposed to just Python waiting for the user to enter something, expecting the user to magically know what they should enter. So normally, some people try to do this, enter your hourly wage. And we can run this, and you'll see that we get the string, enter your hourly wage, printed out, because that's what we asked Python to enter. And then we can enter 5.0, and then we get 50.0 back. However, the input function can actually provide its own prompt. So we can show some text before asking the user for input directly in the input function. So we're going to put the string that we want to ask the user inside the brackets of the input function. And now, once again, Python evaluates outwards. So this string gets evaluated first. Python creates it. Python is now able to use it, and it uses it in the input function. The input function then asks the user for whatever it is that we typed here and waits for the user to type and press enter. And when they do, the value the user typed will become this input function, and it will get turned into a float afterwards. So always in to out and left to right. Okay, so if we type run now, you'll see that I can type here, I can type 15.0 for example, and I can press enter, and now we get 150 back. So the problem now we've got, and that's something that you see a lot of new developers make, is that we've got wage colon 15.0 all joined together. It looks kind of unsightly. So a normal thing is to put a space there after the colon to make it a little bit nicer. So if you want to do that, that's going to make your program just that little bit more, user-friendly, I guess. It doesn't look as bad. Okay, so now we've got this. We can do the same thing, but for the number of hours worked. So hours worked is going to be int of input, enter your hours worked. Now, I'm using int here because I'm not expecting people to work half hours. If you are in your program, you can turn this into a float, and that's going to be fine. Now, instead of hourly wage times 10, we're going to do hourly wage times hours worked, and we can run this. And now our program is going to ask for two things: the hourly wage, 15.0, and the number of hours worked, let's say 20 hours, and we get back 300. Okay, the next thing we have to look at is how to print this out in a slightly nicer way. So we're going to real quick just look at how we can print this out in a little bit nicer. And we're going to use something called f strings for that. So when you're going through the series, a 30 Days of Python series, we're going to have different blog posts each day going into different topics. These are starting on April 1st. And we're going to talk about f-strings and, string formatting as a whole in a lot of detail. But for this session, we're just going to quickly teach you how to use f-strings to display information inside a string or do string interpolation. Just looking at the chat now, and some issues with the stream. I do apologize. I am in quarantine, and I am in quarantine at my mother-in-law's place, so I'm working off my laptop, which can't really cope with the streaming all that well. But hopefully it's bearable. I do apologize about that. All right, so in order to print something in here, what we're going to do first is we're going to calculate the weekly income as the hourly wage multiplied by the hours worked. And then we're going to use an F string. So the way we do that is we type F and then we start off a string. So this is just a normal string, but with the letter F in front of it. In a F string, which is the special type of string, we can type any text we want as normal. So we can type something like your weekly income is. But then if we use these curly braces, inside them we can write expressions. Again, an expression can be anything that evaluates to a value, such as a variable name. So your weekly income is weekly income. Now do note that just writing an F string does not print anything out. So we have to cut it and put it inside the print statement. Now Python is going to be smart enough to realize that what we've got here is a variable because it's inside an F string and it's inside these curly braces, and it's going to interpolate the value of this variable into the string. So if we run this now, my weekly or hourly wage is 15, the hours worked is 20, and now we're going to get a nice string saying your weekly income is 300. Now, I mentioned earlier that this here is an expression, or we can write expressions inside the curly braces, so therefore we could write directly the multiplication in there if we wanted, but I think this makes things a little bit more complicated than they have to be, so I do like the idea of defining another variable instead. Okay. All right, let's see what else we've got here. So we've learned about strings, numbers, integers and floats. We've learned about mathematics. We've learned about getting user input. We've learned about F strings for string interpolation. So we've got a lot of knowledge already. We're gonna go into a couple of quizzes that I've got for you to see if you are getting anything from this series. So come G Patino to lol quarantine with the in-laws. Yeah, it's good. I am very grateful to be here, to be honest. It's getting pretty mental in the UK actually, with everything closing down and everything. So we've got a few quizzes for you. Let me bring the first one up. Have a look, reply in the YouTube live chat with your answer, and then we'll go over the answers in a moment. So we've got here, what is the output of this code? And then you have two lines of code. The first one is x equal 12 plus 5 times 2, print x. So what is the output of this code? 34, A, B, 22, C, the user would see nothing, or D, an error because the asterisk character is not valid. You can either type the result or the letter. And I'm seeing a lot of 22s in here. B22. $120. Andy, 120. You gotta go back to revising your maths. All right. It seems like B is the accepted answer. And here we've got the second quiz. What would the user see upon running this code? What would the user see? A, 3, B, nothing, C, 6, or D, an error because you can't use underscores in variable names. Give you a couple of minutes. We've got a mixture here, a mixture of B's and C's. I think most people are gravitating towards B. D. Somebody said you can't use underscores in variable names. That's not correct. Variables can contain letters, numbers, and underscores. The right answer is B. There needs to be a print statement for our programs to enter this data display stage, I guess. It's not really a stage, but we need to print in order for data to be output. So the answer is B. Here's one more for you. We have, what would the user see? Assume that they type Jose as an answer to the input function. So we've got A, enter your name, then they type Jose, and then we get hello Jose. We get B, enter your name, and then hello. C, just enter your name, or D, hello Jose. Marie Roy, will this channel take donations? We don't take donations. You can support us by joining one of our courses if you want, or just follow us on Twitter, YouTube, watch our stuff. We're here to help you out. We make money from selling courses online, so we don't take donations. This series here is to help new coders out, and hopefully the new coders that get really motivated and really enjoy coding and want to learn more from us will then go and join one of our courses. But that's totally optional. This series will take you quite far in Python just on its own. So we've got a bunch of answers here. A's, D's, C's. A lot of A's though. I'm saying A is the winner if we ignore the spam from Benkata. Spamming C there. So the correct answer is, of course, A. A is the right answer. What would the user see? That means all of the things the user would see in the console when they run our program. Well, they would see enter your name, colon, space, since that's the input prompt. Then they would type Jose, and they would see the characters as they're typing them. And finally, in the new line, they would see hello Jose with the exclamation mark at the end. So A is the right answer. Now we have the final relatively trick question for you guys. So what is the output of this code? And by the output, I mean the last print statement in this code. What would it print? So A, you last saw Rolf 33 hours ago. You last saw Rolf 11 hours ago. You last saw Rolf 3 million hours ago. Or D, they would see an error since you can't multiply strings by numbers. Tony, that is precisely why we are doing this live session, and we're releasing the 30 Days of Python right now. See if we can help people, stay mentally active during this quarantine. But yes. It's a pretty rough time at this time. So we're getting a lot of C's. Guys, I hope you are saying C because you think C is the right answer, not because other people are putting C up. We see some A's. Be brave. Say the answer you think is right. There's some D's going on here. Quite a lot of D's. So the right answer is C. We saw that in the live stream just a moment ago. What happens if you multiply a string by a number? They add together. So user input being 3 and multiplied by 11 is going to actually end up being 11 threes. So you're going to end up with C. You last saw Rolf 3 million hours ago. Also, we asked for how many days ago you last saw Rolf, and the user is seeing how many hours ago they last saw Rolf. So there's a small bug in this program that I'm sure you guys all noticed because you have eagle eyes. So the right answer again is C. So that's all the content that we had for you today. We didn't want to make this session too long. We're encroaching into 1 hour territory, which I think is a little bit long for, starting to code. But I wanted to talk to you really quickly about 30 Days of Python, which is the series that we are releasing April 1st to guide you through your initial stages of learning to code. Today we've learned a lot of the day or so, or first 2 days of the series, but the series goes into much more detail, and also there's 28 more days. The series, every day, we will put a blog post up with a lot of Python content and exercises, and the exercises are really good. So every day has content plus exercises that you should do, and then every 3 days we've got a project for you to do. So day 3, day 6, day 9, they have some projects. I've got a YouTube error there for a moment. So day 3, day 6, day 9, we've got some projects for you to do, and so on every 3 days. And every 7 days, we've also got a slightly larger project for you to practice in. And I've been going through the 30 Days of Python with my girlfriend, who's not a coder, and she's actually really been enjoying it. I can't claim that the series is really exciting to her, but in the quarantine, she's got nothing else to do, so just kidding. The series is actually really well written. Phil Best has been writing it. It's really engaging, and the content is laid out really nicely. I think you guys, if you're starting to code, you're going to really enjoy it. And like I said, there's content, there's exercises, there's projects. It guides you through all the fundamentals. Everything clicks together. And if you join our Discord server, you can get help whenever you need it. And also you'll get the announcements whenever a new day gets posted. So here's what I think you should do. You should join our Discord server, follow us on Twitter, and we are going to be posting announcements there, and you can get your help whenever you need it as well. So I sincerely hope you will join our 30 Days of Python series and back. So I really hope you will join it. We've worked really hard for months on it. We're really proud of the series. We think you guys are really going to enjoy it. So yeah, follow us on Twitter. It's @tecladocode. Join our Discord server. Link will be in the chat, in the live chat. And if you do those two things, you're set up. And hopefully you followed along with today's session, so you're ready to start coding. Day 1 is coming out on April 1st. And we have another live session identical to this one, March 30th. For those of you that missed it, if you want to recommend it to your friends or something like that, just let them know that they can follow us on Twitter, and we'll be able to help them there. Losing my voice already, so yeah. If you've got any questions, I'm going to be here to help out or answer them, so just go ahead and ask in the chat. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning along. I really hope you enjoyed it. I know I have. It's always really great to be live in front of a camera. It's not something that we've done for a while, but it's very exciting and also very enjoyable. So, yeah. Oh yeah, Phil. Phil is right. All the links are in the video description. So check it out if you want to join the Discord or follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Subscribe to YouTube. There's loads of things you could be doing rather than just watching me blabber on. So do go ahead and click all those links down below. Yeah. Tony, the class on April 1st is going to be a blog post that we're going to share on Twitter and on our Discord server. We are going to be doing videos every project. So every project that we give out in the 30 Days of Python series, we're going to make a video sort of coding the solution to guide you through how we would code the solution, give you some more ideas on how you could do it, and so on. But every day we're going to put a blog post up that is really nice blog posts. So every day we're going to put a blog post up with the exercises at the end. Every 3 days we've got a project, and every 3 days we've got a video solving the project as well. How do you join the Discord server, Morris? You've got a link in the description of this live stream, so you can just go down there and click it, and you can join it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Really appreciate your comments. Alan, will the live video be available later? The answer is no. The video is not going to be available later. We've got another live session March 30th. That's in 2 days. Exactly 48 hours, really. Well, 47 hours, I believe. March 30th, 2 p.m. GMT. And this live video is not going to be available because the content that we've covered today is actually covered in the 30 Days of Python series, only in more detail. So instead of watching this live video that is, it's always a bit awkward to watch a live video after it's no longer live. Instead of watching the live video recording, you can look at the series. Thank you guys. Thank you very much for your comments. Very glad that you've enjoyed this series. Again, like I mentioned earlier, if you've got any questions, feel free to ask them now or join the Discord server and ask them there. Yeah. I'm just looking at the chat, so that's why I'm not looking at you. Why? What happened? What lies were told? My laptop literally sounds like it's about to take off. So if you guys were thinking of streaming at 1080p with a MacBook Pro, think again. While running Chrome, that's it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, there's not going to be a video on demand. There's not going to be a recording because all of this is just covered in the series in more detail. Alan, you're totally right. That's why we've got another series. March 30th. I know the time is the same, but yeah. Tessilimi, thank you for joining the Udemy course. I think completing the 30 days first is going to give you a big head start on the course. The 30 Days of Python series not only teaches you how to do things, but Phil has done a great job also delving into, how Python works a little bit and why we do things the way we do things, and also how to write good Python code. And so I think following the series is a great addition to the course. The next live session is March 30th, 2 p.m. GMT, but the contents of that live session are the same as today. So it's just for those people that couldn't make it. The 30 Days of Python series starts April 1st. If you follow Twitter or join our Discord server, following Twitter is probably the best option, to be honest, Adam. Following Twitter, we will be posting every day when we release a new day of the series. Gavaskar, every day from April 1st, we will release a new blog post. And you can take as long as you want to complete that blog post. User testing shows that it takes around half an hour to 60 minutes, depending on the sort of how you go through it. Antonio, are you talking about clean code in Python? We will talk about clean code in Python. We've actually got these style note sections in the blog posts. That is not something that we've done before, but we are doing for the 30 days of Python, that talk specifically about good style and clean code in Python. So yes, we're talking about that. Kaki Pang, you bought the Udemy course but just never studied it. I know, I see that all the time. People buy the course. In fact, a majority of our purchases on Udemy have completed a whopping 0% of the course. So you're not alone there. I was hoping that this series was going to help you kickstart your course taking. So, nice. Interesting accent, Scotch on top of Spanish. Thank you. Just studying. Late to the party. You're not late, mate. You just missed it. But there's another session on March 30th, 2 p.m. GMT, if you want to make it. So, yes. That's about it. We still got 250 people watching me here. Say nothing. But I'll take that. Are you going to teach data structures and algorithms in Python? We teach that in our course, the Dilip Kumar, but we will not teach it in 30 days of Python. 30 days of Python for complete beginners is not really enough to get you making data structures and algorithms. So yeah. Sagar, on the 1st of April, we're going to release the first blog post at 9 o'clock. I'm going to say 9 o'clock GMT, but that's only if I get out of bed on time. This is a quarantine after all. It's pretty difficult to do. So around 9 o'clock GMT, we're going to release the first blog post on April 1st. But again, the blog posts are going to be available, so you can do it a bit later if you want. If you guys have missed this live session, if you're only joining now, another session in approximately 48 hours time, March 30th, 2 p.m. GMT. Follow us on Twitter. We're going to post on there and everything. So, yeah. I see a lot of people didn't quite manage to start the course, about to start it now. Do start it. You can either do the 30 days of Python and then start the course. You can start the course and do the 30 days of Python at the same time. I mean, you've got options. But especially if you're quarantined now and locked down, just start it. It's so easy to just sit in front of the TV or Reddit and not really accomplish everything you could in your time if you're sitting at home. So definitely recommend doing it. Just doing it. Just studying. Any chance that we will covering PyTesseract? No, we're not going to be covering that. I'm afraid we also don't cover it in our course either. I think that's for is that not for like image recognition or something? We don't cover that. Obina, is there a way to contact me? I would love you to mentor me through my programming career. I've actually put a small pause on the mentoring. I'm more occupied at the moment with these helping more students at the same time. At the moment, that individual mentoring. But if you join our Discord server, we can help you out there. I mean, for free. So what's not to like? All right, guys. So, like this stuff. Like us on Twitter. Follow us there. Make sure to tune in for the 30 Days of Python. And we're going to be posting one blog post a day, every day, for 30 days, starting April 1st. We're going to call it now. Just studying, I'm going to give you an hour a day every morning. That is exactly what I think you should do. Do it every day, April 1st through April 30th. And I promise, at the end, you will feel comfortable with Python. You will be able to tackle new Python topics at your leisure. And you will be able to go on and do a lot with Python. If you do every day the exercises in the blog post, and you complete the projects, and you ask for help whenever you need it. Do you intend to cover also automation topics in Python? We don't have a plan to cover any specific automations at the moment. Will the 30 days videos be available after the stream? Yeah, Phil is on that. There will not be daily videos. We have daily blog posts. I will religiously do this. That is what we want, Tessilimi. Every day, April 1st through April 30th, you can do it. You can join us. 30 to 60 minutes. Post on Twitter. That's what we recommended, actually. What I was going to recommend is follow us on Twitter. Post on Twitter every day saying, today I'm doing this. And commit to it. Engage with the community. Be a part of this, 30 Days of Python community. You can use a 30 Days of Python hashtag. Join this community that is doing this series, and that's going to help you keep motivated. All right, let's call it here. I will see you guys over on Twitter and on Discord if you want to join that. Really appreciate you guys joining me and listening to me talk. Hopefully you've learned something. Hopefully you're feeling a bit more motivated to tackle the course and your Python and programming learning. And as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys later on.